From the News Channel 5 network, this is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Monday night on News Channel 5 Plus, the day in which college baseball regionals wrap up, the winner-take-all Game 7 in all the places that have been stretched to the maximum, and that included Vanderbilt at Oregon State in the Corvallis Regional against the number 3 seeded Oregon State Beavers. It has been an incredible weekend for Vandy after losing Friday afternoon in a game when they just really struggled to hit, lost 3-2. At that point, Vanderbilt had lost 6 of its last 7 games. Backs against the wall, facing elimination, come all the way back through the losers bracket, beat New Mexico State 21-1. They beat San Diego in the rematch. They beat Oregon State last night to force this winner-take-all game today, and it was back and forth throughout the entire course of the game. But ultimately, the Commodores fall just short, losing by a final of 7-6 against Oregon State, a very, very good team that has elite pitching and went to their ace in the final 2 innings to get a 6-out save to make sure that the Beavers got out of the regional as the number 3 national seed and held off a Vanderbilt team that was gutsy all weekend long. And it's something that, well, when you're Vanderbilt and you've been to the College World Series in 4 of the last 7 completed seasons, and you've won 2 national championships, and you've been in the finals 2 other times, you expect more than this. It's the first time they haven't been to Omaha in a completed season, a non-COVID season, since 2018. So that's going to be disappointing. There's no question about it. But when you think about this team and all the ups and downs they had throughout the course of the season, and you think specifically about the slump they went in late, I mean, they got hammered in the final week of the regular season by LSU at home. They go to Hoover. They win a game, low-scoring game against Ole Miss, solid win there. But then they get bludgeoned by Tennessee. They get beat up by Kentucky, and they're done. Just like that, 1-2. They lose 3-2 on Friday in Corvallis. They lost 6 of 7. They were not swinging the bats well. It didn't seem like, no matter what the pitching did, it didn't seem like Vanderbilt had any chance to really generate some offense. And then they scored 43 runs in 3 games, 49-4, and came that close. It was the perfect time to find the bats, obviously, but it also showed a lot of guts from this team, a team that just believed that ultimately they would find a way to get it done. That when you get to this time of year, Vanderbilt teams play their best, and they tried to do that all weekend long. And today, it was a battle. But it was an uphill battle. Obviously, the pitching was depleted when you're trying to play a 5th game in the span of 3 days. And so it was going to be up to those bats to try to make it happen. And Spencer Jones hit another home run. He had a monster weekend, 2-run shot, gave Vanderbilt the lead 2-1. Enrique Bradfield Jr. made a couple incredible defensive plays. He was part of a double steal of home, in which, well, it was a double steal in which he scored, let's put it that way. But he manufactured the entire run by himself without the benefit of a hit from the Vanderbilt offense. He walked. He stole second. He stole third on the double steal. When they threw behind the second, the ball squirted away, and he scored on the air. That's the type of player Enrique Bradfield Jr. is. He also drove in a run. They got Vanderbilt back within 1. They ultimately tied the game, but then a solo shot by Oregon State in the bottom of the 7th proved to be the difference. And again, they went to their ace pitcher on short rest to try to slow those bats down, and ultimately he was able to do it. Vanderbilt did have the tying run at second base in the top of the 9th, but they were unable to get the job done. And so Oregon State advances with the 1-run win. Vanderbilt's season comes to an end in the regional final. So disappointment there. Lots of excitement still on Rocky Top as number 1 Tennessee blitzed its way through the weekend to sweep the regional for the second consecutive year and head to the Supers, where they will take on Notre Dame at home in a best 2 out of 3 Super Regional for the right to go to Omaha next weekend. Now, it was a bit tougher than people might have expected this weekend. Now, first off, everything should be tough this time of year. Number 1, it's baseball. So it's about pitching and defense a lot of the time. You can hit the ball hard. It could go right at somebody. So there's an element of luck in there as well. And all these teams are good. Everybody at this level has a pitcher or two. Everybody at this level has some guys who can hurt you with their bat. And in Tennessee's regional in particular, there were some power arms and 2 of the most prolific home run and offensive teams in the country besides Tennessee. And Tennessee had to battle back against Campbell on Saturday night, and then once again in the regional final last night against Georgia Tech. And credit to Tennessee, they did it in both cases. It's a team that you would think, with all the pressure that's on it, now 56-7, and everybody looking at them saying they're going to win the national championship. If they don't, it's a failure. You would think with that there would be a lot of pressure that comes on them. And maybe we saw that a little bit with the starting pitching. Chase Dolander, who was the SEC Pitcher of the Year, didn't get out of the 3rd inning on Saturday against Campbell. Drew Beam, who was the SEC Freshman of the Year, didn't get out of the 4th inning on Sunday against Georgia Tech. But they weren't bad necessarily. They just weren't as good as they have been at times. And Tennessee was able to overcome that. But what the point about the pressure is, this Tennessee team almost seems to embrace the pressure. I mean, Campbell jumped out to a lead. Things were kind of falling apart on Saturday night, and Tennessee comes right back immediately and scores 3 runs in the next inning. And it was just like, okay, show me what else you got. And they continued to do that throughout the course of the night. Drew Gilbert had the big home run. Campbell got it back within 1, and Tennessee then blows it open in the 9th inning. Georgia Tech out in front early. It's a 4-0 game. You got to battle your way, scrap and claw throughout. You get to the 9th inning, you're down 4-3. And what does Tennessee do? It explodes for 6 runs. And ultimately wins the game. In both cases, the bats took a little while to get going. And in those 2 games, Tennessee scored 21 runs. The average margin of victory was 4, 5, and 3. So you feel like there was a bit of a struggle there, but ultimately Tennessee wins easily, at least in the scoreline. It was a challenge. I think it was good for them in that regard. But the ability of this team to just find a new level time and time again is incredible. And I said it last week. I've written about it. This Tennessee team and what they did during the regular season is unlike really any team in the history of college baseball. And they have the opportunity to at least put their name on the short list of greatest team of all time, if not actually be the greatest team of all time in college baseball, if it can go on and win the College World Series. And I look at this weekend as further proof of that. The idea that they didn't pitch their best, that they struggled defensively at times. Cortland Lawson had a terrible game defensively yesterday. He's normally one of the best in the country at shortstop. The idea that they absorbed all of that and the pressure of being number 1 and at home and everybody expecting them not just to win, but probably to win with style points. The idea that they took all of that and they just went out there and they did it anyway is really, really impressive at this time of year. And that's what Tennessee continues to do. And when you look at the Vols, there's been a lot of people all season long talking about the way they play, about the way Tony Vitello talks and conducts himself, about the way these players conduct themselves, about the jumping up and down, Smash Brothers, forearm high fives after home runs, the daddy hat and the mink Kings coat or whatever they've got that you put on after the home runs, all of that stuff. It's rubbed some people the wrong way in other places. I think there's some fans of another powerful baseball program in this state that don't like it very much, how they play, and kind of the brash nature, the bad boys, if you will. And there was some more of that last night. I don't know if you saw it, but when Jordan Beck hit the double that ultimately tied the game, Colin Hall misplayed it in center field. It went over his head. And when that ball dropped, as Beck is rounding first base, I'm not sure if it was directed at Hall or the ball, Georgia Tech in general, or just, life. I don't know. But he flipped the bird as he was running first base. It's something I've never seen before, that a player would actually do that during the game. And obviously that drew the ire of a lot of people on social media after the game. Beck said he sort of just blacked out in the moment because the emotions of the game and the magnitude of the hit and what it meant. I think he probably regrets it ultimately. But that's kind of the attitude this Tennessee team has carried itself with all the way through. And I can promise you this, whether you like it or not, and whether Tony Vitello maybe privately when he saw it thought, maybe it would have been nice if Jordan didn't do that, because I'm sure he thought that privately. I can promise you this. He's not going to have a conversation with either Beck or his team this week about cooling things down, about reining in the swagger. Because that's what makes this Tennessee team so good. The idea that they believe you won't get them out, that you won't stop them from scoring, that you can't hit them, that you won't beat them. No matter what the scoreline is at the moment, they believe they'll get the job done. And this weekend they proved that yet again. And they're going to carry that same bravado right back into Lindsey Nelson Stadium next weekend against Notre Dame, a good Notre Dame team, by the way, that won the regional at number 16 seed Georgia Southern, beat Texas Tech in the final down there. They're going to carry that swagger into that series, and they're going to expect to win and go to Omaha. They're going to expect to win in Omaha. And if you don't like what they do, you're going to have to beat them to shut them up. That's just the bottom line. This Tennessee team has earned the right on the field to do the things they do. And I personally am a bit more of a purist. I would prefer not to see guys flip anyone the bird ever, really, on the field, but certainly not in game. I don't love some of the celebrations, but Tennessee's not the only team to do that. They're just a hated team because they win so much. They're 56-7. They rolled through the best conference in the country. Looks like if the scores hold here tonight, 5 of the final 16 teams are going to be from the SEC. Very could have easily been 6 or 7, with Vanderbilt and LSU both losing by a run today. It's the best conference in the country, and Tennessee dominated it. And the numbers they're putting up, whether it be statistically, offensively, and defensively, or whether you look at the overall wins and losses, it's the type of stuff we've never really seen before in college baseball. They've earned the right to be in this position, but the hate comes from the winning as much as anything else. And so those teams that hate Tennessee or hate the antics that come with Tennessee, well, you got to beat them. You got to beat them to shut them up or shut them down. It's not up to Tennessee to police itself for other people. And they're just going to keep on going. And if this weekend's any evidence, no matter what's out there, they believe they're going to come back and win. They are a remarkable team to watch. The dominance is incredible. But when you really dug into this weekend and the way the other teams played against them, well, those teams played well. They pitched well. They battled against power arms from Tennessee. They scored runs themselves. They weren't necessarily intimidated. And they had chances to win. Campbell played well enough to win on Saturday night against a lot of teams in the country. Georgia Tech played well enough to win last night against a lot of teams in the country. But even as they faced the adversity, you could just tell this Tennessee team believed, it's all right, we got another at-bat. We'll go get him next inning. Or we'll get him the inning after that. We'll get him before the game's over. We'll find a win, we'll shut the door. And that's exactly what Tennessee did. And that is the mark of a truly, truly great team. And this weekend, when you looked, it was hard not to think, man, I don't know who beats this team, because they look kind of invincible right now. And if they get back to everything clicking in the way it really did for them in Hoover in the SEC tournament, look out, because I don't know who out there is going to beat them. There's a bunch of good teams. A bunch of teams played well this weekend. But if Tennessee gets back to pitching the way it did pretty much the entire season with that rotation, the bullpen was awesome this weekend. But if the starters get back to that, to go along with that bullpen and the offense that continues to put up 10 runs seemingly every game, I don't see who beats them. And that's where Tennessee stands right now. 2 wins away from a second straight trip to the College World Series. Our phone lines are open, 737-7767, the number, if you'd like to chime in on our baseball discussion. We'll also hear from Tennessee, Tony Vitello, Will Mabry, who was great in relief last night, and Jordan Beck, Mr. Flip the Bird himself, will come up in just a few minutes here on SportsLine on News Channel 5 Plus. Stay with us.